Yo, did you see the bear? The bear in the convenience store? I kind of felt bad for the bear because what if he was just asking the guy, like, where are the Red Bulls?
Yo, that dude, this the guy who's just minding his own business, getting like a 6-pack, and it's a fucking bear. Like,
yeah, but the bear
confused.
just wanted to know where the Red Bull is at. He wasn't like gonna attack
what you do in that situation? You just go into the store, getting some orange juice, and the fucking bear is behind the door.
I'd be like, yo, the Red Bull's over there. You know what I'm saying? And then that shit swipes half my arm off. I'm like, okay, you didn't like that joke.
So that's the thing. Nature's wilding out right now because, you know, obviously we think we can conquer it, but nature's like, nah, I'm gonna just blow up. So I'm gonna share this new. I want to keep people in the know what's going on in the global context right now when it comes to climate change. The United Nations came out with a report after 8 years. This support because, you know, I know people know about the Paris Accords, about the whole climate change, about the 2 degrees. So the IPCC report is pretty much the basis of that agreement in a lot of ways. So they came out with a new report this year after 8 years saying that, you know, code red for humanity. So I don't know how clear. See, that's something we get all these zombie headlines. We're all gonna die and code red for humanity headlines. We're getting all these headlines right now in August. So, but I'm gonna twist it for you, so it's not that too sad and depressing. But so human activity is changing the climate. If you're not really hot right now or in the AC, I guess you don't notice that, but that's what's happening right now. So we have the hottest temperatures in history, but their report is the first major review of the science of climate change since 2018. So they're pretty much saying we have a decade left for catastrophic, disastrous climate change, and it shows you kind of what's happening. Human influence has warmed the climate. The change in average global temperature relative to 1850 to 1900, so it goes all the way to here. So it shows you this is what nature is doing, and this is what humans are doing, observed and simulated natural factors. So all together, and they say the doomsday. So it gives you context. The doomsday is 2 degrees Celsius, and right now we're pretty darn close to that in 2020. So I know people talk about the floods, so like where there's heat waves like the ones recently experienced in Greece. There's crazy fires on the floods in Germany and China. Everyone's saying this is crazy shit in 1,000 years, 2,000 years, since people were keeping records. It's crazy shit. So the thing is, when it comes to sea level rise, the scientists have modeled a likely range of different levels of emissions. However, a rise around 2 meters by the end of the century cannot be ruled out. So what does it mean by 2 meters? What it means by 5 meters? So I want to play a documentary that we can just chill with. That's not
like
depressing.
17 feet.
Oh shit.
5 meters.
So
yeah.
We have.
It's for that. That's a real. That's a a lot. It's weird because we don't use the metric system like that in the United States, but
yeah,
5 meters is longer than 5 yards. So
that is you better learn how to swim. Take some swimming lessons.
I was thinking about trying to get some superpowers so I can be Aquaman. Talk to the fish.
Oh yeah.
They probably have more sense than we do. We have a deadly virus. We have a deadly virus going around our species, and our species are trying to get it. At least ants know when they see a sick ant, they take that motherfucker way outside, far away from the colony, right? But our species is like, nah, son. We need to spread it so that as many of us can die as possible.
And so this is reality. These
If
are
you
real
can't be threatened
photos.
by the water, the safest place to be is already on top of the water.
So we have many countries
It's not
already are
boat
trying to
or
figure
a
out
house.
how
It's
to
a
deal with
hybrid.
the post kind of crazy world we're gonna have. This is the world that's actually happening. It's not. It's happening now. We're in it. You see these pictures. So people are actually trying to dream of a world to live to it, and not just feel like we're all gonna die.
Sea levels will
Doomsday,
continue to rise, but by how much?
So I'm gonna jump ahead so you guys can watch this in your own fucking time. We're gonna kind of laugh and giggle do this, but I want to show just like different highlights of this clip. You guys can check the rest of it. So I want to just talk about, okay, so you just show me these cool computer renderings. Who gives a fuck? I'm unemployed right now, but I want to show that cities actually, cities actually like thinking about poor people and thinking about, you know,
solutions to
thinking about
all climate change
everyone and not just thinking about rich people living in their own islands, because that's what this stuff kind of feels like, right? This feels like rich people are going to live in an island while I'm like on fire in the wilderness.
You use water to make
so I'm going to let this play out.
So worldwide, we try to take advantage of the water.
That's normally
by
what
building
happens.
on water,
like 28 days later,
taking the flexibility
you know, the
of
zombies
water,
can't cross the
but that
water,
creates
so
cities
you
that
just
are more
get people
efficient
that just
and more
go out to the
adaptable.
water.
There you go.
The Dutch have been
Wait for
taming the
everybody else to
water
die.
and fighting the rising and falling tides
Exactly.
for centuries.
The Netherlands is an artificial country. We are live.
That's what the rich people are going to do. They use the water barrier. I mean, that's what rich people did that, you know, back in the feudal era, and when they had the castles
now
and
we
like,
have
you
a dry
know,
country. But of course, with climate
alligators
change,
and
with more
crocodiles and
sea
shit.
level rise, we can't keep everything dry. So we now have to see what's the next step in this fantastic machine we call the Netherlands.
But if sea levels continue to rise, the Netherlands will be among the first countries that have to deal with the impact.
Here we have to take a lot of effort to keep everything dry. And I think what other architects and other countries can learn from the Dutch is that you never can sit still. You have to think of next steps in your.
That's the
in your
whitest
city, in
office
your
I've ever
country.
seen.
And we call this
I've
building
seen
for
a lot of
change.
offices.
Building for change makes it that we have to be flexible.
Like the
We have
paint?
to be ready for any
Huh?
change in politics,
paint?
in technology,
It's like
in
no
climate,
any
in
ethnic
whatever comes to
souvenirs,
us.
nothing like that.
And with
It's
that,
just like
we have to make sure that we can create
Well,
new cities.
I mean, they are racially homogenous. So.
Kuhn Olthaus envisions what he calls
so
the
it's
blue
I guess it's
city,
easy for them to
a
think about
floating
this stuff and
metropolis
not
that
worry about a
grows
black
out
person
of an
getting. So
existing
yeah, they're
city.
thinking about a whole
By
futuristic
building
city
on
on water.
structures or even districts could be relocated to respond to climate change or new social conditions.
Yeah, they could move them around to keep the niggas out.
Olthaus is an optimist. He believes that architects and urban planners will play an important role in helping communities adapt to rising sea levels.
I didn't say it.
So we
you
also
know.
have to deal with nature. We have to start living with the
They
water.
said social
And
changes.
that was the moment that this kind of floating
Social
architecture, taking use of the water, building top of the water, is the
I
best
mean,
because it's your city. Or
What
your country
social
is
change
threatened
have
by
you
the
seen
water.
white
The
people
safest
make
place to be is already on top of the water.
that like
So
that's
but they
that
actually-
drastic where you're actually moving the landmass? There's
Here in
niggas
Amsterdam,
But
around.
look, they actually build it. The
District.
Netherlands, the Dutch
People are
actually have
already living in floating
representation. Actually have
homes
real
and
things. I'm gonna
apartment
show you.
buildings.
Check this out.
It's a model housing estate that features designs by a number of architects. The structures are anchored to the sea floor. Instead of garages, there are docks for boats. The neighborhood is also different in another respect. It's connected to the mainland by a jetty, and the houses float on the water. So how were these structures actually built?
We make floating foundations that can be from concrete or from steel or from composites. And with that, we can make very large floating platforms. And on top of the platforms, we can build almost anything from parks and green to houses to towers. And these big platforms we can connect to our cities on the water, on lakes, on rivers, on seas. And by that, we can take advantage of that water space.
So it tells you that they're already thinking about moving their fucking cities. While in the United States, we can't even get fucking people to fucking like stop giving oil companies subsidies. You know, while other countries are already like, you know, we're gonna put our whole fucking city on a fucking boat and get the fuck out of here. You know, so they're already far ahead and thinking. So it just shows you that, you know, climate change doesn't have to be doom and gloom. It's not the end of the world. It is possible that things can happen if people think about it and have the resources, obviously. So I want to jump ahead to this next clip just to go even further that this thing is actually real thing that's happening, that people all over the world are thinking about. How can we live through crazy sea level rise? How can we live through fires burning up shit? People actually thinking about that. They're not just like, no, I'm just going to fucking lay in the street and die. That's what it feels like in the United States a lot of ways. It feels like, I'm just going to like stop using shopping bags. That's what's going to stop. Like, come on, man. It just shows you a whole fundamental shift has to happen. So I know it's scary, but if you see examples like this, things are possible. But so I'm going to play this next clip. Keep playing it. Start off here. So they have whole fucking like movie theater and shit, yo. It's not this like some little shack
because of its
house.
Coastal location, and because it sits in the delta created by the Rhine and Maas rivers.
This is not knee-jerk reaction. This
Here's
is
an unusual
preemptive
design:
preparation.
floating pavilions.
Something that we
They're
Americans
covered with
really
a special
do a
foil
bad
that's
job
100 times lighter than glass, and they're environmentally friendly, cooled by surface water and
Look at
heated
that.
with solar energy.
They already have an experimentation like
Pavilions
this.
are now home to a floating cinema.
Them chairs look uncomfortable.
Nearby, a floating park.
Look like, I've got back
Hexagonal islands
spasms with
made
that
of
chair. Yo. That
recycled
chair looks
plastic.
like it like changed like
They've
the
been
arrangement
planted
of your
with
spine and
vegetation
shit.
and already seem to be drawing a crowd.
Hard-ass plastic.
Yo.
For a unique city getaway, you can rent this small houseboat called a Vickelboot.
I don't trust
It's
that. That
wrapped
shit
in
looks like I'm gonna
24
wake up and
layers
be
of
like in the middle of the
corrugated cardboard,
Pacific
which
Ocean and
makes
shit.
it light and just about soundproof.
So I'm supposed to go out onto water in cardboard.
The interior features a kitchen, bathroom, living
I like
room,
the other
and
houses more.
terrace.
I mean, this was.
This Vickelboot is located near the Rotterdam city
This
centre.
just looked like a
Easy
fancy
access
shack.
to sightseeing and
You know how
restaurants.
easy it would be to fall off that shit?
Despite all
Like,
this
you
comfort,
laugh,
there are
like you
constant
laugh and lean
reminders that
back.
you're living on the
It's
road.
rocking in the video. Like I'm not fucking with this one though.
We now return to Amsterdam and the Eiburg district with its 75-unit
But
housing
this
estate.
is the future we could be
Want
looking
het is
at.
geen
Though.
boot, het is
It's
geen
not a
huis,
boat
het is een
or a
soort
house.
hybride.
It's a
En we hebben
hybrid.
ervoor gekozen om ze aan de andere
It's not a
kant
boat.
van Amsterdam
We
It's
have
not
the
a
units
house.
built at a shipyard on the IJsselmeer, a
Daar
big
zijn
lake
ze
east of
gebouwd. Dus
Amsterdam.
kom je daar natuurlijk met weer en wind. In de
Shout out to
winter
That
Twitch
way,
and Facebook for
construction work
tuning in.
wouldn't be interrupted by bad weather, even in winter.
And if you're watching us on
En,
act.tv
ze zijn
on
in
the
de
actual
zomer met
TV,
That summer, when the
meer dan
units were
windkracht 3
finished,
zijn ze
Thank you
geplaatst
so
they
op
were
much.
het
shipped through the locks
IJsselmeer,
to us here.
waardoor ze eigenlijk kant en klaar aangekomen zijn. Toen zijn ze daar aan palen
They're anchored to steel
afgemeerd. Ze
poles
hebben
that were
palen van
driven
zo'n 16
16
meter
meters into the
diep
lakebed.
We hebben die
We designed the
aansluitingen zo
connections so
geëngineerd
that they could
dat
bridge
ze
the
dus
difference in height.
eigenlijk het hoogteverschil ook kunnen overbruggen. Het hoogteverschil
That difference is caused by the tides, but it's not very big, like 60 centimeters.
Iets van 60 centimeter.
And the units
Maar
can
ze kunnen dus
move.
eigenlijk
That includes the
bewegen.
jetties,
En dat
which cover the
betekent ook
utility
dat
lines for
zij
gas,
This is
water,
a real place,
heating,
yo.
and so on.
onder zitten, hè, gas, water.
We
Making
put
a
the
whole
lines in
fucking
flexible
city
tubes, which are
on the
connected to
water.
the units, and they can handle the rise and fall of the tides.
Dus ook dat gaat op en neer. En ook de trapjes, die
The
hebben
different
we
levels were also
she looks
designed
like
to
she spends
adapt
a
to
lot
the
of time
tides.
either
naar gelang het tijd.
around the water or in
The
the water,
units
because her
actually
hair
sit on a floating
like,
foundation
really
that's
looks
composed of airtight
spends
concrete
a lot of
tubs.
time in like some sort of
We
like
chose
river
concrete because
water
it's heavy
or
and
ocean
displaces
water or
water.
something.
Based on Archimedes' principle,
You could tell she's like
Depending
really
on its
dedicated
weight,
her life to all of
concrete
this
can
shit.
displace many cubic meters of water.
Zoveel gewicht toevoegen. En we hebben de
We made concrete tubs in different sizes
So
to
I'm
balance the weight.
Just showing you this angle, different angles of the spot. Look at the spot.
For
This is
example,
this doesn't.
a
It's not a
bathroom is
house.
heavy,
It's not a
so we
boat.
made the concrete basin
They,
thicker
they,
on
they,
the
they had to
surfaces.
figure out how to get the
to
mortgage
offset
for it.
the
It was like
Or a
difficult
bounce.
to get.
En verder
bounce.
krijg je
We explain all
bounce
this
or a
to the
hoop?
residents.
Hoop, hoop. I like a
So,
hoop.
if someone has a heavy sofa and a piano
I'm going
on
hoop.
one side of the unit, they
Party
can
in the
alter the
hoop.
balance by installing air-filled tanks underneath the structure.
om dat daar lucht bij te laten lopen, zodat ze hun huis kunnen uitbalanceren.
What else can the Netherlands teach us about finding new ways to build on and with water?
Ik denk dat
You have to have the courage to
What
try
else the
something
whitest
new.
people in Europe can
People in
show
other
us?
countries could use our projects as an example. You also have to be willing to experiment.
experiment op te zoeken.
All right.
The Netherlands also drew on an example, the famous houseboat community in the city of Sausalito, California, which dates back to the 1950s. Like many communities built on water, its legal status
Wow,
remained
they have
vague
chairs
for
on the
years.
roof.
It's not a house, it's not a boat. You can put the chair wherever you
Het
want
was
at that
bij
point.
ons lastig om een hypotheek
We
te
also had
krijgen.
Put it
difficulties
upside down on the
getting a mortgage.
ceiling.
En het was geen huis. Dus ook
The
daar
banks
moesten we
couldn't
bijzonder
decide
toch
whether they
tot
were
de bank
dealing with a
voor
boat or a house.
een hypotheek kon nemen
So
om
we
dat,
had to come up with
het
new
drijvende
solutions.
huis, aan te schaffen.
That shows you right away that
In
the banks
July
have no idea.
2000
Like, if they can't make money off it, like, what the fuck is this? You know, like, what is that? How am I gonna make money off a Holt? So we're gonna skip ahead. You guys can keep watching that on your own. It shows you just hopeful news about climate change to show you that, you know, like people actually developing different, you know, trying out different solutions, so it doesn't feel like we're all just gonna like die in a fire, drowning and shit.
Now we're gonna die in the Rona first.
Die from a virus, on fire, drowning at the same time, drowning in water. And I mean, this is crazy right now. But so we're going to show hopeful stuff. So we're going to go a little more hypothetical. So like it goes back to like we were saying earlier. This seems like this is going to be just what rich people are going to do. Rich people are going to buy their own fucking super water cities, while poor people are fucking dying in storms on land. They're going to have their own super cities that they can move away from social issues. You
Well,
know,
maybe the people have already died from the Rona since
They're-
they're trying to spread it as hard.
Yeah,
as they can.
they're already using language for it. They're gonna move away from the social issue of like poverty or like the virus, move away from that social issue.
People with melanin in their skin.
Social issue. So we're
to
gonna
have imagination, like our ancestors who built cathedrals. The sons of those architects and stonemasons never saw the completed project that their fathers had begun. The grandchildren didn't either, but they had a vision for the future. You have to have that vision. The future is just a brief period of time in the course of human evolution.
so someone's selling LSD in
100
a
or even
fire.
500 years means
You guys
nothing.
notice that?
Centuries ago, people used to take a long-term view.
One of these long-term projects is Jacques Rougerie's design for a floating city off the Pacific island of Tahiti.
Obviously, this is for
The
rich people.
US-based Seasteading Institute has developed a concept for a floating city project led by political theorist Patrick Friedman. The co-founder of PayPal is also on board.
Rich
The
people.
idea has a political dimension.
Letting you know they're building their own
Colonies
cities and they're
would be
getting the
free
fuck
from
out of
state
here, yo.
control.
So
I think
Giving you a
they
heads
think
up.
zombie
But
apocalypse
floating
is gonna start,
communities
and
must
they
be
know the
available to
zombies can't
everyone,
travel
not
via
just
water.
the wealthy. The Oceanics
like, I don't care what it is. It's
project
gonna be
being
zombies,
developed in
pandemic.
coordination
Just
with
build
the
the island
United
and let's get the
Nations.
fuck out of here.
The goal is to make
But I want
floating
to. Okay,
cities
so I want to
available
scroll
to
back.
the
This actually talks about. So we just gave the rich ass people example. This
city
actually talks
project
about
led by political theorist Patrick
what they're trying to
Friedman.
do for poor people.
The co-founder of PayPal is also on board. The idea has a political dimension. The sovereign ocean colonies would be free from state control. But floating communities must be available to everyone, not just the wealthy. The Oceanics project
that's not
is
true.
being developed in coordination with the United Nations. The goal is to make floating cities available to the many coastal regions that are under threat.
You got fake astronauts.
Those solutions are urgently needed. Nearly half of the world's population lives within 100.
We don't, you know, a lot of the times we only hear about these communities that are adversely affected when, you know, some famous person, some actor or actress is affected. So, you know, we can talk about, oh, well, this, you know, the rich people are on board and, you know, PayPal founder and all these other places, and they don't want to be under a government. That's all fine and good. But y'all could talk all the shit you want about there needing to be a solution for regular, actual human beings. But we already know that is going to be way, way, way down on the list.
Yeah, because we
of
saw what
our
happened.
priority.
Because we saw what happened. They made the same. Remember, they made the same promises with the vaccine. They were like, "Yo, we're
We
gonna like,
welcomed you back.
yeah, I'm
We
back.
in the chat. Welcome you back.
Hey, I'm back. Yeah, I froze up. The Matrix got me again. So
Yep.
so pretty much, yeah. So that's what they promised. Remember, they promised the whole COVAX thing. They're gonna give the world the vaccine. now a year and a half later, we have Pfizer and Moderna trying to like double the profits in the vaccine. They're charging them more for the vaccines. The total opposite of a universal vaccine is happening. They're trying to make that money like a crack dealer. So I can't imagine what's going to happen with these floating cities. You know, you're going to pay for your air. You're going to pay to flush the toilet. You're going to pay, you know, look in the mirror. You have to pay for a mirror. Who knows what they do if you.
And he's frozen again. David W. Frederick says the rich will encounter disasters in those cities.
So
they are only good for vacations. And I think that you have a point. I think that, you know, when you really think about it, you know, once all the poor people are gone, there will be no such thing as rich people. It'll just be people because they'll all be on the same level. And then you'll see the same kind of enmity, the same kind of strife that regular people go through, except that, you know, the human race will have been almost completely abolished at that point.
Because remember the famous story of the two billionaires or wealthy people who pretend to be Canadian native Canadians in order to get the vaccine. This is what they did in the crisis. You know, that's what they did. Their money couldn't save them or anything. They had to pretend to be, you know, native Canadians to try to get the vaccine. So this shows you what rich people would do when push comes to shove. They have no survival skills and they're gonna fail. So
yep.
So
they are willing to end your life to extend theirs for just 1 second longer. They would take out a whole group of y'all if they could, just to live 1 second longer.
So, but I want to show you this, like, you know, really cool, you know, nature time to show you that people are thinking of alternatives.